Claude is a tool not widely used in Hong Kong, mainly because they're strict about banning accounts. Recently, they've launched a new feature called Agent Skills, which I find interesting. I believe upcoming AI tools like ChatGPT and Gemini will probably take inspiration from this skills feature. In my opinion, Claude is a very innovative company. Many new features and ideas actually come from them first. For example, they were the first to introduce artifacts, the canvas inside ChatGPT, as well as MCP. All of these features were, in fact, originally first defined by this company. Now let's briefly talk about the skills feature. In terms of its format, it's somewhat similar to PoBots, or for example, when you create a GPT inside ChatGPT. Simply put, you can first define a prompt. That is, you specify what this skill is supposed to do. You can also provide a file and some additional information. These three things need to be packaged together. After creating a zip file, you can go to the club's website, click on the settings capability in the bottom left corner, and upload this skill there. Just hearing this, you probably have a lot of questions right now. When I was first looking into this feature, I realized, hey, actually, these features have always existed in other tools. For example, if I go into Check in ChatGPT, I can create a new project, and within that project, I can upload files, and I can also operate within the scope of that project. You can set a default prompt, and for this prompt, I can specify that you must reference the documents within this project to answer. Looking at it from this perspective, you'll feel that this feature is exactly the same as the skills feature I just mentioned. So, what's the difference? The first difference is that with skills in the cloud, you don't need to go in and specify which bot to use them with. For example, in the world of ChatGPT, on the left side, I might have one that's specifically for checking whether the text in my slides is correct, and another GPT for something else. For example, if I want to design something, I need to click into and use a bot with a preset prompt. But in the cloud environment, you don't need to do that. When you add this skill, you just type as usual, and it will automatically detect whether it needs to use this skill. That's the first difference. Now, the second difference is that in the world of ChatGPT or other tools, the functions of these two chat boxes are separate. For example, if I start a new conversation, I can press Arrive and then use this chat box for translation. So, in this chat box, a translation prompt is preset for your convenience. However, you cannot use two bots at the same time. For example, right now, if I want to use Canva for design, you'll notice that the Canva bot replaces the previous translation bot. In other words, these two bots cannot be used together in a single conversation. But in the cloud environment, two or even more skills can be used together in one session, and it will automatically determine and use them as needed. Now, the third difference is, within the available skills in Claude, you can even preset it to automatically run code. As you can see in the official Claude skills documentation, right from the very start, it comes with more than a dozen different skill sets for us to use. And now, there are also some public libraries available online where we can download a variety of skills created and shared by others. Now let's click in and take a closer look at the detailed structure of one of the available skills. Each individual skill is actually a set file. If you download and then upload this set file, you'll have an additional skill added to your collection. Inside the set file, there's a text file called .md. When I open this text file, it's actually a preset prompt that explains in detail what this skill does, what requirements it has, and so on. For example, this particular skill is used for a very specific purpose. It's for animating GIFs. So in the skill.md file, it gives a brief introduction to the skill, explaining what kinds of animations you can create, like shaking, bouncing, or spinning effects. What's interesting is that this skill package actually contains code. So when the club uses the skill, it doesn't need to generate new code on the spot. Instead, it utilizes some of the code already included in this skill package. The preset code, this is the main difference in structure compared to other tools. Overall, what they've done is modularize some code, a prompt, and some related files into a set file. After you finish creating this skill, you can share it with your colleagues to use as well. Now let's quickly try it out. Here, I'll start a new conversation, upload a photo, and then tell it to animate a GIF. Notice that I don't need to select a project or click into a specific bot. I simply type and tell it exactly what I want to do, and it will automatically determine whether this prompt actually requires the use of any particular skills. Here, you can see it says, I'm now checking this skill. I'm looking at a document to see how to create an animated GIF. And then here, you can clearly see that it pulled in a lot of different Python files. You can also see that it only took about 4 seconds to create this animated GIF, which is quite fast. The reason for this speed is that it no longer needs to generate the code in real time, because in the skills package, the code is already preset and ready to use, so it just pulls it out instantly. That's why the speed is much faster than before. Now, besides using skills that others have already made and shared, how can you actually customize and create your own unique skills? Now, if you want to customize a skill, you need to carefully follow this specific format to create a seed file. However, there's actually an easier way. Claude has already created a skill that allows you to easily customize your own skills. So, what you need to do is click on the settings icon located at the bottom left corner, then click on the option labeled Capability. Here, you'll find a skill called Skill Creator. When you open it and type to tell it that you want to create a new skill, it will help you set it up. So here, I told it, create new skills. Go translate it into Chinese, and then below I just entered some content saying that I will provide an English article, and you need to translate it into engaging traditional Chinese. If there are any special terms when they appear for the first time, you should add the original English term in parentheses after it. Now, it's starting to help me build this Chinese translation skill. And here, it's helping me write the document for the skill I just mentioned. Wow, it took almost 5 minutes, which felt like quite a wait, and finally it gave me a set file to download. After that, I proceeded to open the zip file to check what was inside, wanting to see the contents that had just finished downloading. This is the file for the skill, so what's inside? Basically, it just follows the instructions. The extra prompt that I gave it earlier is included here as well. Inside, it created a folder called Reference. Within this reference file, it made a translation comparison table, and at the very bottom, there's a checklist for checking everything again after each translation is completed. However, for some reason, this part turned into simplified Chinese. Now, I'm going to the Settings Capability section to upload this skill. Here it is. I clicked Upload Skills and then selected the relevant file, and I successfully uploaded this translation skill. Now, let me try giving it an English article to test how well it translates. This news article is about OpenAI's Sora video, which no longer allows users to generate videos of Martin Luther King. As everyone who has tried it knows, there were a lot of Martin Luther King videos inside before. As for the speech videos now, I'll just copy this link and then I'll tell it to translate into Chinese. So the first attempt failed here. You can see that it didn't automatically detect my skills and just used its own method. So here, I'll try to modify the program a bit to make it clearer, specifically use skills. Now this time I made it clear, so it knows to first look at my skills file. In the skills file, it's mentioned that whenever there are English technical terms, you need to add parentheses after them to keep the original English and Cantonese. Now it's actually doing that. Finally, let me share my thoughts on this feature. There's still a lot of room for improvement. As you saw earlier, it didn't use the skills very smoothly. Also, when I tried to create skills before, sometimes it wouldn't work successfully. It couldn't provide me with the relevant file, so I had to explain clearly and set the file before it could give it to me. There are still a lot of issues like this, but don't forget, this feature has only been out for a week. Personally, I think this skills feature is really worth it for companies like ChatGPT and Gemini to emulate, because this way of combining prompt files and presetting some code is very effective. It's actually much more flexible and efficient to use overall. For example, in the anime example I just created earlier, normally it would generate the code on the spot, which can take some time. But if you already have a code template that is written and saved in the skills section, pulling in and using that template code will be much faster and more efficient. Actually, this skills feature really reminds me of a movie, The Matrix. In the movie, the main character, Neo, can instantly download the skill of Kung Fu directly into himself. Now, AI is just the same. When someone has already created a skill, you can download it anytime and use it for yourself. And finally, in the morning, if you want to learn the latest AI technologies all at once, you're welcome to join our AI Star Specialist Workshop on Saturday, October 25th, held in Xiongwan. The biggest feature of this course is that we provide you with plenty of hands-on practice, so you can immediately understand the strengths and weaknesses of language models. After completing the course, you'll have a crystal clear understanding of which one to use for different tasks. The AI tools I provide and the examples we practice in class are all geared towards work applications, not just hobby classes. If you want to know more about the course content, feel free to click the link below the video. See you in class.